For rendering it, you basically have two options, right? If you just click on these three icons right here, you're going to see that the first option is going to be the movie scene capture. This is the legacy option. This is not recommended because it's a pretty old school option of rendering things. But if you just select it and then you click on render animation, so it's going to give you these settings, right? Now, these settings are basically for if you just want a quick and dirty render of what you're doing inside of Unreal Engine 5. This is not for actual final renders. Nobody actually uses this anymore. We are going to be using the movie render queue, which I'm going to be showing you after this. But yeah, what you're going to do is that you're simply going to be changing your image output format. You can just set it to whatever you want. I generally like to export this as a PNG image sequence. Then I just compile the animations inside of either DaVinci Resolve or Premiere Pro. And we're going to go into how to compile your animations in Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve later on in this course. That we're not going to be doing that right now. So I like to generally increase my resolution to 4K, or if I am rendering a square frame, then I like to go with custom, and then I set my resolution to custom value, which obviously both the values are the same because it's a square animation, right? But right now I'm going to leave it at 4K, and then you can set your output directory, and then you can just simply go ahead and press capture movie. Now we're not going to do that because we're going to be using a much better option of rendering things. So I'm just going to cross this out. Also, be sure to save everything because Unreal Engine can crash in rendering. I'm telling you from experience. But yeah, generally just keep saving your project as you work, right? So for that, right now you're going to see that we only have one option. And the second option is essentially an add-on which actually comes with Unreal Engine 5, but it's not enabled by default. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go up to settings, plugins, and then in the plugin option, we're going to be searching for movie render queue, right? This movie render queue thing. You're just going to turn this on, just check it. And then you are going to need to restart Unreal Engine for this to take effect and for this to be available to render, right? And so I'm just going to do that, and I will see you when Unreal Engine is restarted. All right, so I just restarted Unreal Engine 5, and so you're going to see that we're firstly out of our camera, and secondly, our animation sequence basically is not in our viewport, in our Unreal Engine 5, right? So that tab is basically closed. So how exactly do we fix that? Firstly, I'm just going to go to the camera, Cine Camera Actor, right click that and Pilot Camera Actor. And then I'm going to go to the level sequence, right click that, and then I'm going to click Edit New Level Sequence. And so now you're going to see that that's going to come back up and our animation is playing as it was previously, right? So how do we render this using the movie render queue? You simply just click these three dots right here, select the movie render queue. And then if I just click away and then if I click on the render button, you're going to see that now it's going to open up the movie render queue and not the other option, right? So in this you have, you can sort of customize your output using this unsaved config button right here. So if you just click that, you're going to see that you're going to have a few settings right here, and you can even add more settings. So it has a lot of flexibility in this option, in this menu, right? So firstly, it's going to be importing a JPEG sequence, which we're then going to be compiling into a video, an MP4 video later on in Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve. Alternatively, another option which we have is to export a BMP sequence or an EXR sequence, PNG, or yeah, actually we have these three options. WAV is for audio, so obviously we don't need audio for now. And you can also use the path tracer to render out the path tracing, output. So right now we're in Lumen lit mode. If I go to path tracing, if I go to path tracing, not visibility thing, now you're going to see that it's going to look a little more realistic because generally path tracing is a little more realistic, but it also takes more time to render. So I would recommend you to just stay at lit and just use the JPEG or use EXR. EXR is going to be 16-bit, which means that it is a little higher quality. But generally, I just like to go with JPEG. I think that works just fine. After that, I'm going to go to output, and then we can just set the output directory to whatever we want. So I think something like this. I'm just going to create a new folder, anims, and I'm going to create a new folder in this, call it 1, select folder, and then I'm just going to be setting the output resolution to 1080p. I think that's fine. And you can use a custom frame rate if you want, but 24 frames per second for now is fine. Let's go down, and I think everything else should be fine. One other thing which I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to go to settings, and then I'm going to be turning on anti-aliasing, because right now you're going to see that we have a few jagged edges. These are not that visible in our scene currently. However, when we render it, you're going to see that they are going to be visible. And in order to prevent that, I'm just going to be adding some anti-aliasing. Right, so the spatial sample count, I'm just going to set it. I'm just going to set that to 1, and this I'm going to set to something like 8. I think that should be fine. And then I'm just going to go ahead and click accept. It's going to show you the output directory right here. You can open it and just see it for yourself. And then let's press render local, and it is going to start to render. All right, so now the rendering has been completed. And if I just go to this output directory, you're going to see that we're going to have a lot of images, which basically represent the frames of our animation, right? And so we're going to be we're later going to be compiling this into a whole video. However, if you do want to compile this into a video right now, what you can do is you can just simply go to the internet, and then you can just search for a JPEG to MP4 converter, and then you can just upload your images in that, and then you can just download the video, right? However, the downside for that is obviously you're going to have to upload all the files. Right now the animation was pretty small, so it's just 50 MB, so that's not going to be a big problem. However, usually especially when you're rendering an EXR sequence, this folder goes up to gigabytes. So just uploading everything and then downloading it again is not super viable for a lot of people, right? So anyways, that's how you render animations inside of Unreal Engine 5. And yeah, so that's basically it for this video. I will see you in the next part.